Hi, what's up? I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching Sit Down. Evie Poumpouras here with us. It's time to talk about becoming bulletproof. What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing well, hanging in there. How about you?
Yeah, it's a crazy time, but plenty of time to read, plenty of time to reconnect with people. I know you're out there helping the first responders with Dunkin' Donuts. So what's been like, interacting with people the last 2 months?
I think I've been out there in the mornings. I've been going out with the Police Benevolent Association and with Dunkin' and Health Aid, and we've been going to all the different precincts here in New York City. I think it's, trying to figure out like how I can contribute, even if it's with, just food and beverage, but you're just letting people know like, hey, we see you. Thank you for what you're doing. And I actually think people are adopting pretty well to what's happening. I think initially it was a bit of a difficult thing for people to kind of adjust to, but I'm pretty impressed with New York City and the way everyone's kind of been like, all right, what do we need to do?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome how resilient we can be. We have all these different problems as a culture and society, but a lot of people have stepped up. I mean, you were somebody who's had a career of service as well, so I'm sure you obviously know what's going on with these people. So when you wrote your book, what were some things that were most interesting for you, just personally to reflect on before, everybody else learned your story?
I mean, I wrote Becoming Bulletproof to help people. When the idea of writing a book came to me and the thought of it, I was like, I want to write something that shares everything that I learned. I was really fortunate. I went through all these different academies and I was around very brilliant, resilient people. And it kind of stayed into that idea of service. How can I serve people? And how can I take everything that I absorbed over all the years, successes and failures, knowledge, experiences, and put it in a book that people can use in their everyday life? Because I found myself over the years being asked questions by people. Hey, I have this problem. How do I maneuver this? Or, hey, this happened to me. And so Becoming Bulletproof, it's really 3 books in 1 book. And it's your manual, your life manual. It's protection, how to protect yourself, not just physically, because we get caught up on that. Oh, how to protect my body. Well, what about your mind and your mental resilience and how you deal with adversity, or how that sometimes demolishes you, or can you build up your resilience so that you can deal with problems, something like this. And then the second part of the book is reading people, which comes from my polygraph, my interrogation years, the body language, the reading people, the verbal language, and how can you use that in your day-to-day life? I use it now, post law enforcement career, more now that I work in TV and in journalism. I use it more now than I ever did before in connecting with people. And then the third part of the book is influence strategies. How do we influence people to give us what we want? How do you deal with confrontation? So how do you take somebody who's very rigid, who's confrontational, and how do you maneuver that person or deal with that person to get them to a place where they want to communicate and talk with you? And it's all these little strategies. And I wanted to make sure too that when I wrote the book, that it's not, I don't want to talk about in theory. Oh, in theory, this is great. I'm like, no, you're going to read this book and you can use the stuff in it the very next day, that next moment, if you want to do it. And I wanted to make it as simple as possible so that people can digest it and implement it into their lives. It's 20 years of in the making, this book. So I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah, you certainly should be. And there's a lot of really applicable things, like particularly point number 2, reading people. I think that's something that we as a society struggle with across the board. And it's one thing to read somebody with a polygraph test, but I feel like our default setting is like, oh, this person's so nice, like they mean so well. When in truth, like it's very easy for people to con and manipulate. So what's it like for you to kind of use those skills in real life, and how can people learn more to try and figure out who people really are in their everyday life?
Wait, but you know what? You know what's interesting? Good people can mislead us.
Mm-hmm.
Good people, we all lie, by the way. We all
Yeah,
lie. Some
absolutely.
research says that you'll lie within, one conversation, you might tell 10 lies. Like even, you and I introduce ourselves. Hey, how are you? I'm great. How are you? I'm great. Meanwhile, who knows what's going on in our
Yeah,
personal
exactly.
life, right? It's a lie. It's an honest lie. But if you want to have a good read on people, you want to look at them, connect with them, try to understand them, because sometimes what we say is not in harmony with what we mean. So good people can mislead us just as much as bad people can. So with bad people, you want to be able to read body language, verbal language. You want to look for deceit, those obvious things to protect yourself. But even with good people who are maybe holding back information, who are afraid, or maybe they have a different motive or agenda, when you can understand another person better, then you can connect better, rather than kind of like have this, this ego versus ego thing. You're thinking, what's my goal? What's my point? So I wrote the book in a way to adjust our framework, our mindset of like, what are we after? We're after the truth. We're after a deal. We're after an interview. We're after a negotiation. We're after something. And so how do we game it so that we can get to that end result instead of getting lost in the, oh, they're so nice. He seems so honest. That's okay. But that's not what you want to, that's not what we're looking at here. We want to get a true assessment of another human being. But you got to pay attention. You got to know what to look for.
Yeah, awareness is really key in this situation. And, you brought up something else before where it comes to your mental health, your self-care. For somebody like you spent so much of your career thinking about other people, protecting other people. What was it like to kind of, peel back the layers just on your own personal journey through all of this? Because so much of your attention was on protecting other people.
But you know what's interesting though? The one thing that we learned in training is like you have to protect yourself first and take care of yourself first. Because if I'm not strong, if I'm not healthy, if I'm not well, I'm good to no one else. So ironically, you're taught to protect other people, but with the understanding that if you're not strong and you're not protecting you, you're going to be a complete mess. You're going to be when it comes to anybody else. And so we've always had that mindset of like, take care of yourself, eat healthy. You got one body, make sure you're doing right by it. Take care of your mental, your mental mindset. Even I remember when I first started, I went into the New York City Police Academy. That was my first real exposure to law enforcement. Even then they were like, hey, look at who you hang out with. That was the first time somebody really said, aside from my parents, they were like, a lot of the people you're friends with now, you're not going to be friends with anymore because their value systems may not align with the value systems that you have to have now. And so there's a constant assessment of your environment because I don't care how much we think we're a strong, resilient person. Oh, I know me. You're going to be influenced by other people in your life. And if they're not the influences you need in life, they're going to change your set of beliefs, your system, your values. It's also going to affect how you exist. So for example, if you're around other very brave people, you're going to be a more brave person. If you're around other very fearful, panicky people, guess what? You're going to be a very fearful, panicky person.
That's a great point right there. And you were around people that were some of the most powerful and influential, I could argue, of the last 20 years and beyond. What would surprise people the most about your time as a Secret Service agent that we don't talk about enough necessarily?
I think the number one thing is most people think all you do is protect the president. I think that is the most misleading thing. You finish training and then the doors open to the White House and it's like, oh, welcome. So there's two myths with that. One is that to get to the president's detail, a current president, not everybody gets that. There's an internal selection process that you have to go through and you don't get to that point until many years later in your career, if you even get to that point. The other thing is the Secret Service is a dual mission agency. So they work investigation, they work crime. You're doing search warrants and arrest warrants. I think that surprises people that, hey, you do all these other things. And I happen to be an interviewer, an interrogator, and I actually happen to help other police departments solve their own crimes and cases or try to get confessions from people where they were maybe stuck in a crime or clear people.